Welcome to my channel Geography with Narendranath. If you are new, must will subscribe my channel and share my channel. This channel is most probably there are different geographical lecture such as now today I talk about their endogenetic and exogenetic forces. These are the movement of the earth through the surface of the earth appear to be static. The interior of the earth is in a dynamic state and the dynamism of the earth result in the endogenetic movements is very important. The movements of the earth, the surface of the earth is dynamic. It has been moving vertically and horizontally, and since the origin of the earth there have been major change in the distribution of continents and ocean. The earth has experienced and innumerable earth movements such which have brought about vast change in the surface. The lithosphere is broken into a number of plates and known as the lithospheric plate, and the movement and interaction of this plate cause change on the surface of the earth, and also the force which act in the interior of the earth are called as endogenetic force, and the force that work on the surface on the earth are called as the exogenetic forces. In general term, the endogenetic force are mainly land building forces, and the exogenetic process are mainly land wearing process, and the action of exogenetic force result in weathering and wearing down of relief, but the endogenetic force continuously build up part of the earth and surface, and hence the exogenetic process fail to even but the relief variation of the surface of the earth. So variation remain as long as the opposing action of the exogenetic and endogenetic force continue. Definitely there the classification earth movement there are two types, endogenetic and exogenetic. Endogenetic there are the basically the geomorphic process are very important. And the geomorphic, what is the geomorphic process? The endogenetic and exogenetic force that bring about change in the configuration of the surface of the earth through physical and chemical action on the material are known as geomorphic process. And diastrophism and volcanism are endogenetic geomorphic process also, and there are the weathering, mass wasting and erosion and deposition are exogenetic geomorphic process. So this is very important, the geomorphic process. And also there are the very must will remember endogenetic and geomorphic process. What is the endogenetic geomorphic process is very important. The energy emanating from within the earth is the main force behind the endogenetic geomorphic process. This energy is mostly generated by radioactivity, rotational and tidal friction, and primordial heat from the origin of the earth. And this energy due to geothermal gradients and heat flow from within includes the diastrophism and volcanism in the lithosphere, and due to variation in geothermal gradients and heat flow from within, the action of endogenetic force are not uniform, and hence the tectonically and controlled original structure and surface is uneven. As explained above, diastrophism, volcanism and earthquake are the endogenetic geomorphic process. So definitely what is the endogenetic movements? Basically endogenetic force sometime produce sudden movements, and it is other time produce slow movements, and sudden movements like earthquake and volcanoes cause mass destruction over the surface of the earth. And while diastrophic movements are rather slow, and diastrophism refer to deformation of the earth crust, and more especially to folding and faulting. And there are very important the slow movements. Slow movements, basically the movements which bring about change in the earth's crust and gradually taking the under gets the thousands of years, and which cover period which is much longer than a human lifespan are called slow movements. And these movements act on the earth's surface crust either vertically or horizontally. And diastrophism, basically diastrophism is included within the slow movements. All processes that move elevate on the build-up portion of the earth crust come under diastrophism, and they include the orogenic process and epirogenic process. You know, there are through the process of orogeny and epirogeny, there can be folding and faulting and fracture of the crust. All these processes cause the pressure, volume and temperature change, and which turn in induce metamorphism of rocks. And you know, the epirogenic process, basically some important characteristics. Epirogeny is a continental building process, and due to epirogeny there may be melt deformation of the surface of the earth. An epirogenic process involve uplift or warping of large part of the earth's crust, and epirogeny or continent forming movements act along the radius of the earth, and therefore they are also called radial movements, and their direction may be towards or away from the center. The result of such movements may be clearly defined in the relief. And next I talk about the orogenic process. Orogenic process very important. For some time they are questioned the orogenic process. For UG student, carefully listen. The orogeny is a mountain building process, and orogenic process involve severe folding and affecting long and narrow belts of the earth crust. In contrast to epirogenic movements, orogenic movements is a more complicated deformation of the earth crust, and orogenic processes are associated with crystal and thickening, and notable associated with the convergence of tectonic plates. And orogenic process may push deeply buried rocks to the surface, and if the orogeny is due to the colliding of the two continental plates, and very high mountain can result, such as the Himalaya. And certain movements basically contrary to the slow movements, and there are certain movements which bring about abrupt change in the crust, and such example of the such movements are volcanic eruption and earthquake. So definitely you know, on the earthquake basically here the earthquake refer to trembling of the earth's surface due to the sudden release of energy from within the earth's interiors along the fault line or wake zone. An earthquake can occur at any time of the year, day or night. Its impact is very sudden, and the place in this crust where the movement start is called the focus. The place on the surface above the focus is called the epicenter, and a sudden release of energy creates a vibration of the earth's surface, and vibration travel outward from the epicenter as earthquake waves, and these earthquake waves create mass destruction on the earth's surface, and the greatest damage is usually closest to the epicenter, and the strength of the earthquake decrease away from the center. And volcanism is basically a volcano is a vent in the earth's crust, and through which molten material erupts suddenly towards the surface, and volcanism is responsible for formation of many intrusive and extrusive volcano forms. And volcanoes are classified on the basis of nature of eruption and form the develop at the surface. Major type of volcano include the shale volcano, composite volcano, caldera, and flat basalt ridge in the mid ocean ridge volcano, basically. And next, some importance, there are the volcanic landforms. Basically in this video, exogenetic and endogenetic force, so they are related. The volcano landforms, basically major intrusive and extrusive, such as the intrusive include the batholith and the leucolith and lopolith and phacolith and seal and dikes, basically in this diagram. Also, basically batholith is a large body of magmatic material that cools in the deeper depth of the crust, develop in the form of the large domes. And leucolith, there are the large dome shape intrusive bodies and with a level base and connect by a pipe like the conduct from the below, and these are located in the deeper depth. And lopolith is a saucer shape and intrusive form and convex to the sky body. And phacolith, there are the lens shaped intrusive mass formed by the solidification of lava either on the crust of anticline or through the syncline. And seal or seeds, basically the structure are formed by the solidification of lava in the surface parallel to the earth's surface. The thinner ones are called seeds, whereas the thickness one are called seal. And dikes, basically these are like the structure formed by the solidification of lava perpendicular to the surface of the earth, basically dikes. And now I talk about exogenetic movements. Exogenetic movements are naturally force which help in leveling of the earth's surface by the forces of degradation, transportation, aggradation are called the exogenetic agents. So definitely exogenetic movements, the surface of the earth is ever changed by the endogenetic and exogenetic force. Definitely the exogenetic movements on the earth's surface gradually try to leave the uneven surface of the earth, and the agent of weathering and erosion are continuously involved in the undoing the change created by the endogenetic movements of the earth. It is very important. There are the geomorphic process also, and also exogenetic geomorphic process. The exogenetic process derived that it is very important for the agenda geomorphic agents and the exogenetic elements of nature like water, ice, winds, and capable of the removing, transforming and depositing edge materials. And can we call the geomorphic agents? They are such as the running water, groundwater, glacier, winds and waves and currents, and called with geomorphic agents. Exogenetic geomorphic process. The exogenetic process derived their energy from atmospheric determined by the ultimate energy from the sun, and also gradient created by tectonic factors. As explained above, weathering, mass wasting, erosion and deposition are exogenetic geomorphic process, and all the exogenetic geomorphic processes are covered under a general term denudation. The word denu means to strip off or to uncover, and weathering, mass wasting movements, erosion and transportation are included in denudation. And the basic reason that lead to weathering and mass movements and erosion in the development of the trace in the body of the earth material. Force applied for unit area is called the trace, and trace is produced in the solid by forcing or pulling, which include the determination in the body. Definitely and there are the different kinds of the trace are produced in the earth material, so the seed and trace and gravitational trace and the molecular trace. So exogenetic geomorphic processes are greatly and influenced by climatic elements such as the temperature and precipitations, hence the basically exogenic geomorphic process vary from region to region. And exogenetic geomorphic process also depend upon type and structure of rocks, as different type of rocks offer varying the resistance to the various geomorphic process also. And mass movement, definitely this movement transfer the mass of rock debris down the slope and under the direct and influence of gravity. The debris may be carried within the air, water and ice. The process of weathering added the mass movements, and the mass movements are very active over the weathered and sloped and rather than the over under weather materials, and no geomorphic agent like the running water, glacier, winds, wave and currents and participate in this process of mass movements. And mass movements are added by the gravity, and mass movement is also added by weak unconsolidated material, think the varying rocks and fall steep slopes and abundant precipitation and the terrestrial rents and spare vegetation. And also the classification of the mass movements having of the soil due to the forced growth and other causes, flow and slides are the three forms of movements. The figure given below here, the relationship among the different type of mass movements, they are relative rates of the moving and moisture limits. Here you can see. And type of mass movements, they are slow movements and rapid movements. First of all, the slow movements. Slow movements, they are number one, creep, and the creep refer to the movements of material which is extremely slow and imperceptibly in the normal condition. And the creep generally occur on the modified and moderately steep and soil covered slopes. And depending upon the type of material involved, the several type of the creep and soil creep and the talus creep, rock glacier creep, and can be identified. And solifluction and the solifluction refer to the slow downslope flying soil mass and fine grained rocks and debris structure the lubricated with the water, and this process is quite common in the most temperature area. And next there are the rapid movements. First of all, the earth flow. Rapid movement, the earth flow refer to movements of water and saturated clay or slaty earth material down steep there are slopes, and these movements are most prevalent in the humid climatic region and occur over gently to steep slopes. And next there are the mud flow in the region of sparse vegetation and heavy rainfall, and thick layer of the weathered material get saturated with the water and flow down along the definite the channel, so it look like a stream of the mud within a valley. Mud flow frequently occur on the slope and erupting or recently erupt. There are the volcanoes such as the mud flow can cause the great destruction to the human habitation. So definitely must remember. And avalanche, this is also type of the debris flow, and debris avalanche can be much faster than the mud flow. Debris avalanche is similar to snow, and avalanche is more characteristic of humid region and with or without vegetation cover. It occur in the narrow track on steep slopes basically. And landslides also related. Landslide involves relatively rapid and precipitation movements of the rock masses. The material involved are relatively dry. The size and shape of the detach and the mass in the landslides depends on the nature of discontinuity in the rock, the degree of weathering and the steepness of the slope, and depending upon the type of movements, a landslide can take place either by the slumps and the involving back and the rotation with the respect to the slope, or by the rapid rolling or sliding the edge debris without backward rotation, referred to the debris slides. And similarly, sliding down of the individual rocks masses is referred to as rock slides basically. And erosion, very relative term of this points. Their erosion involve acquisition and transportation of the rock debris, and erosion result is in degradation of the surface relief and wearing down of the landscape. And it is erosion that the largely responsible for continuous change that the earth's surface is undergoing when the massive rocks break into smaller fragments through the weathering and any other process. Erosional geomorphic agents like running water, groundwater, glaciers, winds and waves remove and transport into the other places. And abrasion by rock debris carried by these geomorphic agents also adds greatly in the erosion. Thus, weathering adds erosion, but it is not a precondition for erosion to take place. And deposition, basically deposition is a consequence of erosion. Gradually the erosion agents lose their velocity and hence the material carried by them start to settle themselves, and the coarser material get deposited fast in the finer one layers. By deposition, depression get fill up the same or erosionally agents, and running water, glacier, winds, waves and groundwater act the agglomeration or depositional agents also. So there are very important, what is the impact of exogenetic force. Basically erosion and deposition is very big issue for impact of exogenous force. And soil erosion is the deterioration of soil by physical movements of the soil particles and from the given sites, winds, water, ice, animals, and this use of tools by the man are usually the main causes of the soil erosion. That is the natural process which usually does not cause any major there are the problems. It become a problem when the human activities cause it to occur much faster than under normal condition, then removal of soil at the greater rate than it replacement by natural agents such as the water, winds and is known as the soil erosion. So definitely I explained there soil erosion is a four type which are follow, such as the wind erosion, seed erosion, there rill erosion and gully erosion. So wind erosion, basically winds carried away vast quantity of the fine soil particles and sand from the desert and spread it over the adjoining cultivated lands to the desert area, the fertility. This type of erosion is known as the wind erosion. It takes place in and around all desert region of the world. In India, over lakhs kilometers the land is under the third deserts spread over the part of the Gujarat, Haryana, Punjab and Rajasthan state, and these area are subjected to instance wind erosion. Seed erosion, basically water when move as a seed take away that thin layer of the soil. This type of erosion is called seed erosion. Such type of the erosion is most common along the river beds and area affected by the floods, and into the long run the soil is common and freshly adjusted due to the removal and stop soil and become the infertility. And rill erosion, the removal of the surface material, usually soil by action of the running water, the process of creating enormous and thin channels and few depth, and most of which carry water only during the storm. And gully erosion, when the water moves as a channel down the slope, each slope this curve of the soil and forms gullies, and who is the gradually multiple and the long run spread over wide area. This type of erosion is called gully erosion. And the land thus dissected is called badlands or the ravines. Basically badland or ravine. Basically in our country, the two rivers Chambal and Jamuna are famous of their remains in UP and Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh state. And also they are important, the deposition and sedimentation. Basically how it's occur when the sediment settle out, the winds, water current die down or the glacier melt, and when the sediment is transported and deposited in the leaves and close to this mode of transport and deposition. For example, if the mode of transportation is by the sliding down a slope, the deposit that result are generally characteristic nature, and so the wide varieties of the particle size, grain size and the interdependency between the grains give the resulting sedimentary texture. And so the uniformity and the grain size and particular become sorted on this basis of density because of the energy of transporting medium. High energy currents can be carry larger fragments as the energy decreases. And soil formation, must will watching and must will share continuously video. There are the another video also I will provide. Thank you to all.